Boxing truth here. Danny Jacobs cannot let his momentum simply slip away, as there is interest in Danny Jacobs' career more than ever before following his defeat to Gennady Golovkin. Danny Jacobs didn't lose anything that night, though. There's more interest in his career than there's ever been. There's actually interest from HBO. They've expressed interest in getting back Danny Jacobs on their airwaves, but of course that'll be up to Al Heyman if Heyman is willing to showcase Danny Jacobs to HBO again. Wouldn't hurt. I mean, HBO is willing to pay money, a license fee, if Jacobs is interested in going back to HBO. And Jacobs' career is in a better position. He's got more marketability now, more fans, more respect. The knockout loss of Pirog is just an old memory. He did win the fight, but he earned respect. He gained some fans, and there's more interest in Danny Jacobs' career than there's ever been. So, Danny Jacobs asked his followers, who would the fans like to see him fight next? And there are opponents for Jacobs, since the Golovkin rematch is not available. There's no rematch clause, so Golovkin and Jacobs will go their separate directions. If a rematch is possible, it will happen down the road. But there are two opponents I would like to see Danny Jacobs fight for his next fight, and hopefully Heyman doesn't fuck up with Jacobs' momentum, keeps him on the shelf for 8 months, and then he's back on a spike telecast in a bullshit tune-up fight. Much of what happened to Jacobs prior to the Golovkin fight. He came off the biggest win of his career, 90-second stoppage against Peter Quillen. Stopped him within less than a round, and then he didn't fight for a long-ass time, for about 9 months, and it was in an undesirable rematch against Sergio Mora. So hopefully Heyman doesn't fuck up, does the right thing for Jacobs, because he's coming off momentum, coming off a decision loss to Golovkin, one of the best fighters in the world. And he puts him back in there within a respectable time frame. I would say August, September. The earlier the better. And he puts him in there with a worthy opponent, a worthy contender, or a guy with some name recognition. And one of those fights will be Jermall Charlo. I would like to see Danny Jacobs and Jermall Charlo lock horns sometime this year, if it can't be next. I would also like to see David Lemieux. That would be a good fight in the middleweight division. The winner could earn a second crack at Golovkin. Of course, David Lemieux is going to be fighting on the undercard of Chavez and Canelo, what will be a tune-up fight. And maybe he might be in the running for the Canelo fight later in the year. But if the Canelo fight doesn't happen, he could easily fight Danny Jacobs. Maybe it could be an eliminator or something, or whatever. Of course, that fight will be hard to make. But who else is out there in the middleweight division that Danny Jacobs could fight? The two most interesting opponents to me are Jermall Charlo, a fight that is very possible, but I'm not sure Heyman will make that fight right away. I mean, if I was Heyman, if Charlo has to fight in Highland for eliminator, or he could fight Danny Jacobs, why not just keep it in-house? But we'll see what happens with Charlo's situation in the middleweight division. Don't really expect Jacobs and Charlo to fight next. But y'all let me know what y'all think. Who is out there for Danny Jacobs' next fight? An interesting opponent. I revealed two off the top of my head. Y'all let me know who Danny Jacobs should fight next, and what's a worthy test, a worthy contender for Jacobs' next fight. And hopefully Heyman does the right thing, gets him back in action, and gets a worthy opponent. This is Boxing Truth. I'm out.